He said, Phil, you know what they say about making assumptions? And I said, no, I'm in kindergarten. What did they say? And he said, making assumptions makes an ass out of you and me. And I said, bro, what the? Why are you cursing? What was that, bro? What the? I'm in kindergarten, dog. What the?
I'm gonna go cry now.
What you talking about? Topic was spawned by the evolution of young JT to now somewhat older. I don't think you're old. Somewhat older and wiser JT. Because we were talking on a previous episode, and I was like, man, this man is legitimately the most genuinely curious coach that I know. Whether it's having a conversation when you're working with coaches, whether you're working with your clients, or when you're learning information yourself, whether it's on social media, through a course, whatever medium that might be through. So I wanted to sort of pick your brain a little bit on that genuine curiosity and kind of how you got there and why you think it's valuable for coaches. So I guess starting it off with kind of a broad question, but when you think about your progression as a coach, right? How do you think you came to be so genuinely curious in all of these domains?
Yeah, those are all great questions. I think there's probably a lot to why you would consider me as genuinely curious, but one of them being humbled a lot, not knowing things and being embarrassed about not knowing things, and just not knowing. I think as a coach, can come off in different types of ways. Meaning, like if a client asks you a question early on in your career, you're like, I'm gonna make something up because I'm a professional. I'm the person here that needs to know the answer. And
Yeah.
I think thinking back as I went through that, I felt like I had a lot of instances where I had to make things up.
Yeah.
And I made them up so much where I thought I was right. And at some point, you kind of look back like, why am I not able to answer a lot of these questions or even understand what this person's asking? So part of my genuine curiosity comes from a place of embarrassment or just being humbled to a degree. So as my career progresses, it's more of how do I make sure I'm here as a coach, as a guide for the people who needs help, which is a person or people in front of me. And that starts with learning, right? How do we continue to learn? And you can't learn things that you feel like you already know. And that's something that I continue to keep in the back of my mind, is because it's true. If you think you already know something, you will not learn any more from it.
Yeah.
You could always go into a rabbit hole of something. You can't go in the rabbit hole if you feel like you know that something already.
Bars. Tat it. Tat it on me. Tat it on me right now, dude. That's that you can't learn something that you think you already know. That's fire.
There's a better quote there somewhere, but
nah.
Plato said it.
Back to our dog. Our dog, young Plato. Yeah, I absolutely love that sentiment, and like I appreciate the honesty, the vulnerability, like, and I'm sure a lot of coaches can appreciate the honesty and the vulnerability. Like, whether you want to admit it or not, there are times where you get asked a question from your member, from an athlete, from whoever, from a fellow coach, and you can like bullshit your way through an answer. But that's really helping nobody or nothing other than, your ego. Right? It's helping you feel better, but not necessarily helping the person in front of you. Right? So how can we take a step back and be honest and open about the things that we don't know, and then that allows us the actual space to then say, I don't know, okay, cool, now I can go down this rabbit hole, like you said. So yeah, like we talked about on a previous episode, like hopefully people can learn from our mistakes so they don't have to continually make some of the same mistakes that we've made. But I I absolutely love that. So then with coaches, do you feel like the coaches that you work with, is genuine curiosity something you see often, or is it a little bit more rare?
I go back and forth with this, with the whole topic of growth mindset
Mm,
and fixed mindset. I think we talked about this offline. I don't think we, as humans in general, are either fixed or growth minded.
mhm,
I think we, from my observation experience, I feel like a lot of us are growth minded in some aspects of our life, but also fixed in others. I go back and forth and talk as I talk to coaches. I know some coaches are growth minded into certain aspects that they're interested in, and just fixed on others.
yeah,
Right. So before I used to think, oh man, these coaches are not growth minded. They don't want to learn. Where I don't think that's entirely true. I think there's aspects of things that they're passionate about that they are growth minded,
yeah,
um, with, and they want to learn a little bit more within that avenue. However, they're not fixed in all. So it just depends, like with any answer. And a lot of that comes from the values of the coach, right? So if you're, if I'm talking to a coach, I'm pretty sure they understood the concept of growth minded,
mhm,
and they would probably consider themselves growth minded.
yeah,
Um, but I'm really curious a little bit more on why they're fixed on some things. And um, I would imagine a lot of that's, you know, with their values and what they're set on, what has gotten to them to that point. But what are your experiences with that?
I mean, I think you swayed me like 100%. Like we've talked about it before, but the answer's gonna lie somewhere in the middle. So if we look at a hard spectrum of fixed minded to growth minded, right? We can say growth minded is pretty synonymous in this situation with being genuinely curious, right? So I think I would tend to say coaches are, or at least in my experience, are can be relatively fixed minded, but like you brought up, it's in certain avenues, right? So it's dependent upon the specific context they're learning about or the thing that we're speaking about, right? So and it probably lines up with people's passions, like you said. So I think I'd have to agree with that. So again, thinking back to actually, let's start with some of the downsides of not being growth minded, not being genuinely curious before we talk about changing it. So, in your experience, whether it's literally yourself or coaches you've worked with, coaches you've mentored, what would you say some of like the major downsides are if we're too fixed minded and we're not genuinely curious about what we're learning?
I think we, if we are too fixed minded, if we could all agree or come to a truth of what we are here to do as coaches,
Mhm.
which is to help the person in front of us, um, I see downsides in not understanding what that person in front of us needs from us. So, with a lot of fixed mindsets, you're just fixed on your mindset, right? You're fixed on what you want to accomplish, what you like to do. Where if the goal is to help what that person in front of us needs, then that is not reaching that goal, right?
Yeah,
It's ultimately coaching ourselves, and that person is just along for the ride. We're along for their ride, and they
yeah,
need us for that. So I think uh, if we were to bundle that up into why you should not be fixed minded, is because you will not get very far and you will only run in circles in your own head at some point. And people might come along for the ride,
yeah,
but what's your goal there as a coach?
yeah, yeah. No, I love that. I think I always think about like an example that happens in healthcare a lot, where a doctor might look at your survey responses or your chart or whatever it might be, or get information from a nurse before they go in to see you, and then they've already made up what your diagnosis is before even speaking to you and assessing anything, right? So if I
Mm,
go into my coach consult, if I go into the first time, my first session with an athlete, thinking like, all right, this is who this person is, this is what they want, this is what they need, this is how it's going to go. Like my mind has already been made up. Well, then I'm missing out on so much valuable information. Like it's just kind of blowing by me, or I'm not paying attention to these signals because I've already made up my mind on, again, who this person is in front of me, what they're all about, and what they need. And I think about going into to workshops, or going into mentorships, or going into in-person education, and oftentimes it's like, does someone be like, oh yeah, this coach is a tough one. Like I don't know if they're gonna like it. And then I go in with that mindset like, damn, this coach already hates me, right? And then I start treating them differently. I start acting weird, right? When in reality, like it's just a misunderstanding, and they're a great coach, they're a great person. So it's like, but I went in with the mindset of, all right, this is who this person is, and I'm not going to seek to understand. I'm not going to question what I've been told, right? I'm just going to go into it. And same thing that happens when you're coaching. Same thing that happens when you're learning, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it ends up doing everyone involved a massive disservice, and slows and muddies the entire coaching process down.
Yeah, 100%. I like what you mentioned there, because there's a lot of parallels that we could take from that, and you know, have the analogy of different aspects of our life, just overall preconceptions and
Yeah.
Of different settings or environments. But specifically, I think from what I heard there, it's taking things for what they are, right? And not having, and doing your best to have an unbiased opinion on
Yeah.
certain things, specific with training. Like training is just training.
Yeah.
The certain methods and systems that you learn, like those are just what they are. And I think what you take from that will be based off of how you feel would be necessary. So for example, if somebody, I gotta stop talking about FRC, bro. Everybody is just gonna come after me. I'm
Smoking.
sorry. I don't want to smoke. I don't want the smoke. Let's just call it PRI. Let's go to the other side. If I take a lot of concepts of PRI, I'm just learning about the concepts of PRI. Like it doesn't necessarily have to have an emotional attachment to how I feel about it. It's just what it is. And I think that's where a lot of coaches, in my experience, start to struggle with, as they see certain things, as they try to learn certain concepts, is they start to have an emotional attachment to what that is, or how it's communicated even, and how it would pertain to themselves or their people. And like, my people don't need to do that. Okay, they don't need to do that. It's just what it is, right? If you take whatever is useful for you. If you don't need to use it, you don't need to use it. So for me, as I approach specific methods and specific training systems, it's just what it is. If there's value to it, then I will take it.
Yeah.
But you can't get a lot of value to things you don't know, or you're not exposed to.
Yeah.
And for me, learning is like one of the keys to happiness. To some degree, I just want to learn, but that's my own selfish reason. So I think exposing yourself to things, at least within our coaching world, will allow you to have as much tools as necessary to see what is useful for your, specific goal.
Yeah, a lot of nuggets in that, but I definitely see like the almost like tribalism with certain methods, or certain companies, or whatever you want to call it. But why do you think coaches kind of fall into that trap, where it's like, hey, I'm a triphasic guy, or I'm a West Side guy. Shout out Howard, right? Like I love conjugate, and that's how I program. That's what I do. That's what my members do. Like, why do you think people fall into that just like super narrow lens of basically like creating a bias towards something?
Yeah, I would love to hear from people who do feel like that.
Yeah.
Because what I'm about to say is probably just my own personal opinion and bias. I would imagine it's the passion for understanding a certain subject to an expert type of level, quote unquote. And there's a lot of value to that alone. If you're a specialist in one thing, That's pretty cool. There's a lot of there's a lot of
Yeah,
value to that in the sense of people look to you for that specialty, or people trust you for teaching them. There's mentorship in itself is rewarding to some degree. So I think those things come to mind when we fall into that tribalism type of mindset,
yeah,
and knowing something to its detailed to its finest degree would allow us to help somebody in front of us a little bit more with that type of method.
yeah, yeah.
What are your thoughts
Like,
there?
yeah, no, I like you. I agree. Like you're always bringing it back to the person in front of us, or like, oh, bringing it back to at least why are we here, right? Like why ultimately why am I learning this thing? Right. What's the end goal of using this method? What's the end goal of using whatever technique it is, whether it's mobility, whether it's strength, whether it's speed, right? It's always to service someone else, right? It's always to help someone else, or to a certain degree to help ourselves, right? To try a different method to help ourselves, to help me get to a certain place, right? But yeah, I think like with that, yeah, maybe it is like a tribal thing, like be feeling like a
Yeah.
part of a community, and now more than ever, especially in the fitness space, like there's a lot of really awesome virtual communities, right?
Yeah.
So how can I feel like I'm a part, like an actual piece in this virtual community, um that I can learn from and bounce ideas off of. In reality, to a certain degree, like maybe you're getting stuck in a little bit of an echo chamber where you're starting to hear the same anecdotes from the same people, or the same or similar people posting the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And then now that starts to feel like this is the only answer,
Hmm.
because you're not seeing any of the other content out there. And for me, like I feel like social media and getting caught up in the algorithm, like that's how personally when I fallen into this trap of being a little bit more fixed minded towards a specific method, or towards a specific style of training. Social media has kind of stoked that fire to a certain degree, because I'm now locked in that echo chamber, and I'm hearing the
Hmm.
same thing over and over and over and
Hmm.
over and over again, and I'm never hearing anyone else's opinion that's outside this quote unquote tribe, or this quote unquote group that I would
Right.
associate myself with, right? So 7-ish years ago, when I'm deep in my CrossFit bag, all I'm
Deep.
following are CrossFit people.
Yeah.
So if you're not rocking Reebok Nanos and some gymnastics grips and some sweatbands, like I'm not following you at all, right? So then I'm not seeing anything else. And I'm not
Yeah.
looking actively for anything else, right? So when
Right.
something would come across me that wasn't CrossFit, I'd be like, what is this? Is stupid. I already have
Hmm.
the thing that works the best. Right. And
Yeah.
so I think that definitely leads people down that path a little bit.
Yeah.
It definitely plays
That's a,
plays
that's
plays
a
a
good
role.
point. I think social media does uh, put us into some type of tribal mindset where we're made we're our the algorithm is created to have us look at what we want to look at. Right?
Yeah.
Specific with the industry of fitness, we're going to see the same things over and over, same people over and over. And now more than ever, we have to be a little bit more conscious in seeking out the things that we're not seeing.
Mm.
And that might not be through social media. I don't know how to fight the algorithm. If you do
You can't.
know,
You
give
can't
us
fight it.
a give us a secret.
You got to give into it.
You gotta give into it.
You can't fight
Get
it.
out of the matrix. Get
It's
out of the
unbeatable.
matrix, bro. Um, you can't, right? So I mean, if you can, it's going to be through willpower.
Yeah.
And for me, it's getting a little bit more introspective. Like, why am I not interested in? Let's just say I used to be really against kipping pull-ups, right? Because everybody was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, that's not a pull-up." Like, it's not a pull-up. It's a kipping pull-up.
Yeah.
A pull-up versus a kipping pull-up. Those are saying that's an apple. That's not orange. Like, it's not an apple. It's an orange,
Yeah.
right? So I think getting a little bit more into depth on what you're telling yourself, at least specific to exercise. Oh, that's not a squat. Okay, why are you saying that? What is it exactly that you're um, implying there? And I think taking things for what they are, kipping pull up is a kipping pull up. It's a different type of exercise as a whole.
Yeah,
right?
dude, that's God. Kevin pull up speaking to my heart.
I
He
know you
used to have
like
that.
that one.
I used to have those butterfly pull ups on lockdown. Know that I was a demon on the rig, but it's so true. Like, take it for what it is,
Hmm.
right? And what it's meant for, who it's meant for, why people do it. Like, sure, if someone's doing it to get better at strict pull ups or to get stronger lats, probably not the best option,
Yeah.
right? Is it horrible for that? I mean, you can make an argument that it's okay, right? But there are definitely better options than a kipping pull up or a butterfly pull up. But like, if the standard of performance in your sport, so like CrossFit or Grid League or whatever kind of fitness sport you're doing, is you're starting from the bottom, arms locked out, and then you are finishing with your chin over the bar, and that's the only standard, and you need to get 20 reps done as fast as you can, well then shit, they become the best option. Like, far and away, they are the best option for that. So like, what is it for, and why are people doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's perfect.
And I think what's tough about that is it's where these um, messages are coming from. Social media and how
Mm-hmm.
it's communicated
Yeah.
is where we might be subconsciously getting put in the box of being fixed, right? If all the information that you're learning, or if all the information that you're getting and where you're learning from is social media, it's very heavy on opinions and how things are viewed, where that won't really lead us into a place of taking things the way they are.
Yeah. Yeah. So like,
So that's tough. About
with that lens, it makes me think about conversations we had in the past. And this is like part of the reason why I was like, all right, I want to talk to JT about this on the show so people can hear kind of his thought process and how he views genuine curiosity and having a growth mindset and how he embodies this kind of value. But like, talking about a Joel Seaman or talking about a functional patterns, like, one of the things in the industry, for good or bad, it's just super popular to like make memes and talk shit about other coaches doing weird things. So like, whether it's, David Weck doing silly stuff, or whether it's Joel Seaman saying crazy things, but I'll send something to you and be like, how dumb is this? And then you'll be like the way better person and be like, well, like, do you know why he's doing that? Or like, do you know what the rationale is behind it? And then I have to be like, no, I don't, JT. Okay, fine. You're like killing the fun here, but yes, no, I do not know the rationale behind it. So like, how do you keep that? Like, when I feel like it's so easy just to like succumb to talking shit. Like, how do you
yeah.
keep the level head and stay open minded with all this stuff?
Don't get me wrong. There's some funny stuff out there. Like,
For
I'll
sure.
laugh because it looks funny. But when you think about it, or for me, when I think about it, I used to be, young coach, just got in the industry. I know everything, bro. Like, I'm gonna
Mhm.
go into the 24-hour fitness. What's that dude doing over there?
Yeah.
Bicep curl, ISO split squat, overhead press. He's dumb. Why is he doing that? And at some point, I got him into my head. I'm like, why am I thinking like that?
Yeah.
Right? Specific to people in the gym, like, they're there for a reason.
Hmm.
Their intent, you don't know, but you could probably think that they want to get healthier to some degree, right? So why am I bashing them in my head? I'm probably wrong because I don't know what they're trying to do. If they're trying to do a challenging movement, if they're trying to hold a split squat with a dumbbell, their goal is now completed,
Yeah.
right? I'm dumb now because I thought they were wrong. They were wrong. So I just don't know what people think and what they're trying to do. And specific with the social media, like Joel Seaman, I'm pretty sure his goal, and I've listened to some of his podcasts, like, his goal is to get some eyes, some views, some clicks, some good comments, some bad comments. That's his goal. Now his goal is very, very accomplished because
Yeah.
he has done that. So I think if we look into it a little bit more, specific to social media, if people post something that's very outlandish, more often times than not, they probably just achieve their goal in getting you clicked, getting the share,
Yeah.
whatever the caption was, it's that's probably what their goal was. And if it was a reason for like to help somebody improve a squat, and you feel like that is not how you improve a squat, all right, there's a conversation there that. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of things we as people scrolling in front of a screen need to get a little bit more introspective about. Like, all right, why am I getting hurt? Why am I getting mad? I just don't like being mad. And I don't like being hurt about
Yeah.
certain things. So I'm just not going to care as much about a lot of that.
Why am I butthurt that Joel Seaman is pressing with a trap bar with weight on one side and not on the other side on a
I
Bosu
guess
ball?
funny.
Like,
It's
why is
hilarious.
that? Why am I sad? Why is that like living rent free in my head right now?
Rent's expensive as enough, man.
You know, in California, bro, this shit ain't cheap. Like, why,
Well,
why am I letting this stuff live rent free in my
yeah.
head? Yeah, and again, it's yes, obviously it doesn't make sense for the specific context that I work in. Probably doesn't make sense for the specific context that a lot of people work in. But again, if the goal is generating engagement and that's it, congratulations. Like, he's checking that box every single time. So yeah, I just love that mindset. That's kind of like caused me to change how I think about a lot of things differently now. And I've been the same way, right? I've been in the gym. I train at a regular gym now. Like, I don't train at one of our facilities at Exos. So I'm training in a gym. I'm constantly seeing people do like wacky stuff. When I first started training at the gym, everyone rent free in my head, like, dude, that shit's so stupid. Why is he doing that? Oh my God, this guy's doing legs every day. Why is he doing that? Like, and maybe some of the stuff is misguided. Maybe some of the stuff isn't, quote unquote optimal. But at the end of the day, I don't know. Like, I don't know why that guy is quarter squatting. Like, maybe he's doing it to overload the top of that pattern because he wants to get faster and he wants to lift the most load possible. Maybe he's got a hip impingement, or maybe he's got a hip replacement and he's working on range. Like, there's an infinite amount of reasons why someone might be doing that. So instead of just the blanket statement being that's stupid, this person's an
Hmm.
idiot, right?
Yeah.
Changing my mindset to be like, all right, like, why might they be doing that? And then even as an exercise for a coach, like, you see someone doing something, like, what context does that movement make sense? What context does that loading scheme make sense? What context does this method to gain more mobility make sense, right? And when does it make sense? And that becomes like an easy exercise for you to just start to practice and see, how you can use these different tools, but really how you can learn from everything that comes in front of you. Like, I even think
Hmm.
about reviewing people's programs, and that's something that we do a fair amount. I feel like I used to be very much so like right and wrong, black and white, right? Like, this is how you write a good program, or these are the things that are involved in a good program. This are the things that are involved in a bad program. This is how you write a strength program. This is how you write a foundational program. This is how you write a speed program. When in reality, it's like, I don't really now anymore. I feel like I cannot judge someone's program until I can like fully understand the context.
Hmm. Right.
Being a little more curious, being a little more open minded. So instead of being like, yo, why, like, pairing these two movements together is stupid, now I'm coming from it like, why did you pair these two movements together? Like, what problem does this solve? What purpose does
Yeah.
this serve? And that's kind of totally changed the communication and the conversations that I have with coaches.
Hmm.
But it's also helped me learn, and it also helps me help them.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right, because now I understand their context, and I can speak specifically to the context that they're working in.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think specific to our industry, we could probably give everybody the benefit of the doubt that their goal is to not hurt that person.
Yeah.
But as educators or just people who want to have a passion to coach coaches, can we just bring a little bit more awareness and potential hurt for certain movements? And that's just one thing, right? Maybe we're just not, we don't know what we don't know
Hmm.
in a lot of cases, and specific to programming, just bringing up certain questions on why this is there and why not this as a suggestion. Can you have that conversation to possibly understand where they're at and give them that perspective of, oh, this potentially could be better, or what I'm potentially doing, I wasn't even thinking about, okay, now how can we get better, knowing that our
Yeah.
intent is to help the people, right? And for me, specific to exercise, like more oftentimes than not, intent is to not hurt people physically. Um, our intent is to help.
Yeah.
So now, how within this messaging or within this specific exercise of programming, what questions can I ask to get to that same point
Yeah. I
of
think
helping?
about like one thing that you always say. It's like, what does that mean? Like define that for me, right?
Yeah,
Because again, we operate on assumption a lot,
yeah,
right? So super specific example of this popping in my head from a mentorship we ran. Our boy Alyosha, shout out Alyosha, coach in Germany, great coach, great guy. But he was writing a strength program, and we were reviewing it, and we never talked about what strength meant, really. Like we never defined, hey, strength is improving the maximum amount of force that our tissues can produce or our neuromuscular system can produce. We never defined that. We never set that ground rule. So then he made a strength program with some relatively high rep ranges, like in the 8s, the 10s, the 12s. So a lot of volume and a lower intensity compared to, you know, what most people would classify as a quote unquote strength program. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I'm about to chew this guy up. Like he's about to get it. And then he went and defined what strength meant.
hmm
Right. And so he said for a lot of people I work with, strength is more of a subjective, more of a qualitative thing. Like I
hmm
want to feel stronger in a movement pattern. Right. Meaning that I want to feel like I can control this movement, like I can perform this movement well when I'm tired, under heavy loads, under moderate loads, for reps, for speed, whatever. Like I want to feel like quote unquote strong with this movement. So at the end of the day, strength in this sense was getting better at coordinating movement, like coordinating these specific patterns that he had in his program. And I was like, oh shit, here I am sitting here ready to not seek to understand, like ready to chew this guy apart when in reality, he wrote the perfect plan for the goal. And I
right.
didn't do my due diligence. I wasn't open minded and I didn't ask him to clarify what the goal was or fully
Yeah.
try to seek to understand why he was doing the things that he was doing. And again,
hmm
that could have been a very different conversation. That could have been a very different interaction that would have went negative versus coming from him from that genuine curiosity standpoint, like, hey, you know, why are you doing these high rep ranges? Or hey, why are you using lower intensities? Why are you using shorter rest periods in this phase of training? Oh, that makes a ton of sense
hmm
when you lay it out like that. Like, you know, and then maybe, you know, maybe we don't call it strength. That's fine. Like I don't want to sit here and, you know, argue about semantics, but you know, 9 times out of 10, if we're not operating on assumption, we're coming to things from a place of genuine curiosity, we're going to have better results. We're going to
hmm
have better relationships. We're going to have better conversations, and we're going to learn a shitload more.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. That's why it's really important to have the same language.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we might all speak um, the same language, whether it be in different countries, but even then, so the context behind certain words matters in that conversation. So, specifically for strength, if we say the word strength to 100 different people, 100 different people might have different concepts
Yeah.
within that. I mean, when we might go into the actual definition of strength and in textbooks, you know, going over the underpinnings of strength, but I think subjectively, most people have a relative definition of strength. I'm just trying to get up the stairs, bro. I can't. Or I'm trying to compete in a powerlifting meet.
Yeah.
Those are two different definitions of strength. But can you get to a point of curiosity to understand that that's what that person need or means by that word? So for me, I don't like to assume. I think, you know, I think that for you, I'm sure that comes with experience.
Yeah.
Um, assuming will only get you so far. But understanding that, okay, if you can't assume, now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ask questions.
Ask questions.
Ask
That's
better questions.
Yep. Yeah. I've my kindergarten gym teacher. I was like, bro, we playing kickball today? Because we had the kickball. I mean, the kickballs are out. So I was like, bro, we got some kickball today? He said, Phil, you know what they say when you about making assumptions? And I said, no, I'm in kindergarten. What did they say? And he said, making assumptions makes an ass out of you and me. And I said, bro, what the? What are you cursing? What was that, bro? What the? I'm a kindergarten, dog. What the?
I'm gonna go cry now. I'm
What
gonna
you
go cry.
talking about? Ass. Yeah, immediately. I was an emotional child. Immediately started crying. But that's something that I try to keep with me. Right. Don't make assumptions. So then starting to land this plane a little bit and start to wrap up the topic as a whole. I think that's probably a great starting point for a lot of coaches, right? Specifically when you're working with your clients or a potential client, don't take their goal at face value. Right. So what JT was saying, ask more questions, ask better questions. At the very least, ask why or what. Right. So if someone comes in and they say, hey, I want to get tone, I want to get lean, instead of being like, bet, I got you. That's the easy road, operating on assumption. Let's unpack what it means to them. Like, what do you mean by lean? Like, what does that look like? What does that mean? Do you have an example? Like, what will that help you do? Or how will you feel when you get to that spot? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Strength, again, perfect example. Like, I want to get stronger. I want to get stronger legs. Like, what does that mean to you? Do you want to get bigger legs? Do you want to get like feel like you have more function or more movement options with your legs so you
Mm-hmm.
can run and jump and change direction and play with your kids? Or do you legitimately want to produce more force with your legs? Like you want to like JT said, like do you want to get stronger in squat and deadlift and like a powerlifting style
Mm-hmm.
training? Right. But
Yeah.
beyond that, JT, any other words of wisdom for cultivating this growth mindset and this genuine curiosity?
I think three things come to mind in terms of like maybe things that we can look into or read or keep top of our minds is a book. I think I'd be remiss if I don't mention Carol Dweck's Growth Mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So a very impactful book in that sense. And shout out Coach Joel. I first learned this concept from him of curse of knowledge. I think there's some really cool, um, probably videos if you go on YouTube or just articles about learning about the curse of knowledge. And last one probably it's not going to be out. It's not going to be specific to this, but it was a story I read. I think it was COVID. It was about a guy named Daryl Davis. Are you familiar with him?
No,
So
I don't think so.
he's a black jazz player who basically turned 200 KKK members into not KKK members.
Got him out the
So
club.
they basically gave up their jacket or their they left the clan from this guy's curiosity, um, and he's a black jazz player,
That's so cool.
KKK member. So it was a cool story to read, to understand a little bit more about how curiosity and can save your life and also can change other people's lives.
Yeah.
Right. So I think with that specific story, he was very curious. He's like, why do you hate me? Right.
Mm.
And then they didn't even know. A lot of them didn't know. And with fear, whenever we fear something, is because we don't
Yeah.
know
Don't understand it.
anything about it. So if you have some time, read that article. There's a lot of stories out there. Pretty significant story, but yeah, a lot of good reasons to be growth minded. And ultimately, for me, I'm like, I just don't want to be mad. I don't want to be angry. Let me
Yeah.
not. And
Yeah.
if you are, like, why? Like, if you want to keep that in your heart, keep doing that. But I'm just trying to be a little bit happier and trying to help people at the end of the day.
That's facts. Hey man,
Yeah.
some people just want to be haters.
Yeah, it feels good. Honestly, it feels good to hate people, bro. I
It's
share
easy.
something. It's easy. It feels good to be like, yo, this dude's doing some weird ass exercises, right? at the end of the day, who are you helping? Probably
Mhm.
yourself,
Yourself.
but you're not helping anybody else.
No. Yeah, 1,000%. I think that's kind of been the. I don't think we've directly called this out, but that's kind of been the undertone of this whole conversation. But doing all this without judgment, like genuinely, I'm not prejudging you or what you're saying or what you're doing. Like when I'm asking why or when I'm asking how or whatever question I'm asking you, there's no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is coming from a real place of I want to learn why you're doing the things that you're doing or how you're doing the things that you're doing.
Yeah,
Right.
that's tough.
And it's tough. And maybe like but the best part about it is like, let's say, you go to a seminar and you're like on the fence about it, but you show up, you're genuinely curious, you're open-minded, you're not prejudging anything. At the worst, you never use the stuff. Right. At the best, you've met some cool people and you get some more tools in your toolbox. Right. So the downsides are pretty minimal. Right, especially if you're, keeping that emotional attachment away from it, and you're not just sitting there being a hater and not learning anything and wasting everybody's time.
Like, it could be better. It could be better by or specific to those things. Like if you go to an event, you can confirm that you do know those things. That's nice.
That's nice.
That's nice.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. For me, I want to get confirmed that I'm doing the right things, because that's a nice pat on the back. Because sometimes I'd be doing stuff, I'm like, I don't know if this is the right thing.
Yeah.
But then if I just generally learn from different people, and things are working for them, I'm like, all right, maybe I am kind of doing the right thing here. So yeah, a lot of nuggets in there, but hopefully people get a little bit more at least conscious about certain mindsets they do have about specific avenues within our industry. And if you do feel a certain way about one thing, just ask yourself why. Do you actually feel a certain way about something, or did people communicate something to you and now you feel the same way they feel? And now you're just letting people control you, and
right,
I don't think you want that. Unless so
right. Do you understand it? Do you understand the thing you hate?
Yeah,
probably not.
If you do, you hate it, that's fine too. At least you know.
Just being a hater. At least you
at least you know.
Now you know a lot about yourself. But God, I feel like I could keep like spitting out random things, but we can shut it down. JT, where can people find you?
CoachJT.mp3. Hit me on the DM. Probably won't get you right then and there, but at some point I probably will. Mainly because I don't have notifications, not because a lot of people hit me up. Don't worry about that.
That DM is an absolute war zone. Man is just getting assaulted in the DMs. You can hit me same spot on IG at Nashville. I have my Instagram notifications on, so if you DM me, I will see it. So
I'll text them.
I will. We will reply. As always, if you love the show love how you're supposed to. Hit us with a subscribe. Share it with a friend, a family member, a fellow coach, a client, whoever you think will get some value from this conversation. And if you really love the boys, then you can leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them things, please, and thank
5
you.
of them.
But shoot, that was another push and performance episode. As always, thank you all for listening. My